Hello and welcome back everyone. Now that we have created our first three-dimensional topographic map, we now have an idea on how we can read our beach profile graphs. Our next step is going to be to create two visualizations in the same window so that we can visually compare the changes between two selected dates. To produce multiple graphs at once, we're going to have to modify a few lines within our script. So first, we're going to go back to line 19, where we've initially chose a date to graph a three-dimensional data visualization of. This time, instead of only choosing one date to graph, we will choose two dates. For this example, I'm going to keep my initial date, January 31st, 2018. On line 19, after my first date, I'm going to go ahead and add a comma, and then I'm going to add my new date, which I choose, which is going to be the second date on our list here, which is 2/28 of 2018. So February 28th, 2018. Just as a reminder, do not forget the apostrophes when you are typing in your date. After you've added your dates to line 19, it should look something similar to what I have on my screen here. Next, we want to scroll down to line 62. So line 62 here is our color bar that we saw in our graph earlier. Now that we have an idea of what the colors represent, we can hide this color bar to give us more space to visually see our graphs. To hide the color bar, instead of deleting this line of code, we're going to turn it into a comment. To do so, all we have to do is add a percent sign at the beginning of this line here. So in line 62, right before it says color bar, go ahead and add a percent sign. What this is going to do is it's going to turn this line green, which if you remember from earlier, means that it is just a comment. This action will result in not having a color bar when we produce our graphs. So by the end of this, your line 62 should look something similar to what I have on my screen here. Now that we have chosen our two dates to graph and modified our color bar, we want to modify the way Octave plots the graph. Currently, Octave is only plotting one graph, but this can be easily modified through one line of code in our script. So let us scroll over to line 50, where it says h1 is equal to subtype plot, and then it has additional information afterwards. This line of code is responsible for the amount of graphs that we can plot, as well as the spacing between them. The part of this line that we are particularly interested in is the beginning of these parentheses right after subtype plot, where it reads 1, 1. Here, the first one refers to the number of rows, while the second one refers to the number of columns. And this just means currently we have one row and one column, so we can produce one graph. What we're going to want to do is we're going to plot two graphs at the same time. So we're going to want to change this. We want our reading to plot one graph on top of the other, with two rows and one column. So to make this change, we're going to change these numbers to read 2, 1 instead of 1, 1. So your line should look something like this when you're done. Once you've made those changes, go ahead and copy your entire code, and then go back over to your command window and paste your code in the command window. After it's done loading, if you did so correctly, you should produce a graph that looks similar to the following graph that you see on my screen here, with your dates chosen. When you're ready, move on over to the next slide to follow the steps to create multiple topographic maps at the same time. Once you've done that, take a moment and record your observations in your field notebook. What differences did you notice between the two graphs that you plotted? Is there a specific day that seems to have had more erosion happen than the other? Does one topographic map look overall higher in elevation? What do you think may have caused these differences? Once you have made these observations, share your findings with your classmates.